So this is where it gets a little bit interesting, because the eyes are, as they say, the windows to the soul, so we need to make sure it looks pretty good. Now, as you can see, what Lee's done is he's got a single mesh over here, which is the eyeball, or the sclera, and then he's got the outer mesh over here, which is the cornea, the reflective bit. But then he's also got this piece in the corner over here, which is supposed to be making it look a little bit wet, and then he's got these two big meshes over here, which are meant to be casting shadows, or rather just the top one. The bottom one is the same wetness as the corner. So let's go and select all of these objects over here, like, not that one, that one. I think that is all of them. We don't want the sword. There we go. Oh, and the cornea, and go into local view. Now let's go ahead and start with the sclera, or the cornea I mean, and that is going to be exactly the same as the glasses, or the glass for the goggles in the previous video. So let's go and hit Shift Z and use nodes and delete our diffuse over there, add a glossy shader, change it to sharp, which is the same as putting the roughness on 0, and then let's add a transparent shader, mix these two together using a Fresnel node, or rather the layer weight, just to, easier to control. Okay, and that is the cornea pretty much done. It's very simple. Now as you can see, it's looking a little bit strange. And the reason for that is because it's actually casting a shadow. We've got the bounces pretty low, so it's not going to be able to calculate all the in-between bounces on the inside. So rather than waste our time on rendering, we can just optimize that by disabling the shadows in the ray visibility panel. And there you go, that's fixed it. And while we're at it, we might as well just disable all of these except the camera, because we only really want to be able to see the reflections. We don't really want them to contribute to how the other materials get light. So let's just increase that blend a little bit to make it a little bit more reflective. We can tweak that a little bit later when we add the texture to the sclera. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is just the shadow casting piece on the top. This mesh over here is really only meant to cast shadows. We're not supposed to see it at all. So if we just go and hit Shift Z, let's take a look at our nodes. We can just delete the diffuse shader so it doesn't have any shader on it at all and it's completely black. You can see that, it's casting some shadows over here. And if we go and do a similar thing with the ray visibility by disabling the camera, now all the materials will be able to be affected by that mesh, but we don't actually get to see it, which is what we want. But unfortunately, we get this big dark line over here, which is actually where it contacts the mesh underneath. So in order to get rid of that, we're going to need to add a back-facing output from our geometry node and use that to mix together a transparency shader. Now if you take a look at our transparency shader, it obviously makes it completely transparent, so we can't see it and it doesn't cast shadows, which is fine. But what we do want is it to cast shadows. We just don't want to be able to see that big black line. Now that big black line is caused by the light inside that mesh getting trapped in there and nothing is escaping. So we want to basically make this mesh transparent on the inside but opaque on the outside, and that's where this back-facing output comes in. If we take a look at that back-facing, it's going to give us a white color on the outside, but when viewed from the inside, on the inside of that mesh, you're going to see it's actually black. Or rather, the other way around. It's going to be white on the inside and black on the outside. It's hard to see. I'll explain this a little bit better in a few seconds when we do this corner piece. So for now, let's just do this thing, and you can believe me without understanding. I know that's terrible, but take a look at the magic that is now going to happen. So as you can see, we no longer get that big black line in the middle, but it's still casting a shadow. I don't think we're actually going to use this. I don't really think it's necessary. The eyelid is going to cast a shadow anyway, so I just wanted to show you that that is possible. Okay, so now for that piece in the corner, this guy over here. This is a little bit of an issue. If we take a look at a regular sphere over here, let's just delete all of my nodes left over from testing and add a diffuse shader. You can see we've got the same environment and it's just a regular sphere. So if I go ahead and add a glass shader, it's going to look, fairly decent. maybe we'll reduce the index of refraction to 1.3, which is a bit closer to water. And you can see it looks like glass or water, which is great. But this isn't very efficient. Glass is slow to render, so let's try and optimize it a bit. And how we're going to do that is basically the same as we've been doing previously with the other glass, and that is using a glossy shader with 0 roughness on white, mixed in with a transparency shader, which is that guy there, and some Fresnel. So we'll just plug those in there, like so, and that is it. But now it looks weird. It's not supposed to do that, is it? I mean, there's this giant big black ring around, but it looks fine in the middle. And the reason for that is because the Fresnel node only works on the outer surface of the mesh. If we zoom in onto the inside of our mesh, it looks completely strange. That's why if we invert our normals, it's going to look kind of strange on the outside, but it'll look fine on the inside. So what we want to do is first of all make sure our normals are facing the wrong way, or the right way rather, and then we're going to use that same back-facing output over here. So as I said earlier, it shows black on the outer surface, the correct side of the face, but white on the inverted side of the face. And how we can use this is very simple and very cool. All we need to do is subtract it from the Fresnel, like so. And now you can see we've got our reflections, and it looks like a simple little bubble, especially if we increase the index of refraction to something a bit higher. And that's great. See, without the subtraction, we've got the big black ring, and with it, we don't, which is perfect. And that's exactly what we're going to use for this wet piece over here. So I'm just going to create that material quickly. And that is exactly the same as the other file. And that's it, very simple. So let's go and copy paste this material. In fact, we don't even need to do that. Let's just go and have it use the same material, the corner eye, like so, which is cool. Maybe increase the Fresnel a little bit to make it a little bit more reflective. And do the same for this side, or the other mesh, which is actually over there. And he is going to be the corner of the eye. Okay, so the final thing that we want to do is going to be the actual sclera itself, which is the eyeball, the white of the eye. So let's go ahead, use nodes, add a texture, and this is going to be the eye diffuse. And that's basically a very simple material. And that's kind of done. If you do want to make it a little bit more realistic, you can use a subsurface scattering shader instead of a diffuse shader, but I don't really think that's necessary because it's quite small and we don't really have a close-up of the eye. So that's great. And that is done, or the eye done. I'm actually going to delete these shadow meshes here because I don't really like them. And that is it for the eyes. Very simple. So in the next video, we're going to get started with the hair on the ninja, which includes the eyelashes and that sort of thing as well.